friend and I decided one summer night to go to a place called the Slaughterhouse one evening. Where we grew up, there was a lot of urban legends about the place and the road that was on. Empire Mine Road. This road was located by the Bay Area of California, and the road was shut down after many accidents had happened on it. It was deemed unsafe, although it was still open as a walkable path through. Well, we decided to go alone. I know, two youngish girls at night in an abandoned place, not the smartest thing. In the past, we had gone in groups of 4 or 5 people, and always found others to explore with, so we didn't think much of it and felt pretty safe. I had brought some film camera and hoping to capture something possibly otherworldly on film to serve as evidence. I also brought my pocket knife just in case there was a need, and for peace of mind because homeless sometimes hung out there and there was rumors of satanic rituals. Although I knew the rumors was BS, we started the 20-minute walk to the slaughterhouse itself, and this time felt really different. About a minute or two into the walk, I felt very heavy with dread and fear, but I didn't want to say anything to creep out my friend or seemed like I was going to chicken out. We made it up the final turn to the straightaway, where it sounded like we were next to a freeway, but at this point we were at least a mile from the nearest road. So the sounds of car doors closing was supposed to be the remains of all the accidents that had happened along the road, but I wasn't sure, and I figured the sounds were carried from the wind from a faraway freeway or road. We made it down the final stretches and hoped to hop the fence, and we were on the property. The place felt very different from the last time. It looked as if it had burned, and the buildings were blocked off by rubble, so it really wasn't much to do. I walked on the buildings and had photographed at previous visits to comparison. And I began joking with my friend as we started to feel a bit more comfortable. I didn't remember exactly what I was doing, but I turned my back to a building. My friend stared at me and dead seriously was like, "Come here," and I walked over there like, "What's the matter?" Apparently he had saw a dark figure with with red eyes behind me. I didn't see him personally, so I didn't know if she was trying to scare me or not. But I stepped towards her and saw the dark truck traveling on the road we had just walked on. This was really weird because the road was gated off and we had parked in front of the gate, which meant no one could come through without moving our car. Our car had not been moved, so it would have been nearly impossible for the car to get through. I can't stress this enough, it would have been nearly impossible to get the car past our car and the locked gate. The truck was barely visible with no lights and didn't make any sound on the road or engine. This dark truck pulled up to the gate we had hopped and was yelling to get off my property. We couldn't see anyone in the truck and it was barely lit up. As soon as it was gone, it was there and it was gone. No sound. Neither of us saw a gun, but we both swore that he had one. I was like, let's get out of here before whoever or whatever comes back. I nearly ran a mile back, and I'm not someone that runs. Once we hit the final stretch, I could see to what looked to be like police lights. We had told each other to just remain calm and we'd be fine. Once we got to the police, they greeted us politely and we returned the politeness, hoping to score some points. They had said that they received jumbled calls, and this was very odd, but they had caught there was people on the road, but they seemed to be confused by the calls as we were. My friend had said that we were just walking on the road to see the place at night, never actually hopped the fence. Thank God they believed it. After a few insulting remarks about us being two females on the road at night, we were on our way. We stopped at a well-lit gas station to catch our breath and agreed to never go there again. I no longer live near that area, but that I swore I'd never go back, certainly not at night. I still think about that night and it perplexes me. Everything that happened. I told myself that it was just the owner, but it doesn't make sense on how they could have gotten through the car and through that gate, and the confusion the police had as well. In addition, many photos I took up either turned as pitch black, even though I had flashlights and the flash was on. I had a few developed that looked normal, but I chalked them up to be bad film. But the same thing happened with the pictures on my phone. Overall, the experience has puzzled me. I always wondered if anybody else has had an experience similar. And this is the best place to post it, I guess. This happened to me when I was 16 years old, 15 years ago. I woke up in the middle of the night, sometime around 2 a.m. I was wide awake and couldn't fall back asleep. So I was lying in the bed on my side, staring at the desk across from me. I kept my door slightly open because my cat would sleep in my room. My room is pretty lit from the hallway light that was on. I felt pressure on my bed. It fell at my feet. I thought it was my cat moving around. I looked towards the door, and I see a black shadowy figure standing at the bottom of the bed. It was about 5'5". It looked like it had a black cloak on. I didn't see any face or anything, just all black. I couldn't see it through it though. It was like it was blocking the view of the door, kind of like a silhouette, and the edges were hazy. My first instinct was to close my eyes and start praying. I still remember my heart beating out of my chest. I could feel it walking up towards my head. Everyone describes the cold chill you feel. It was a cold chill starting from my feet, went all the way up to my face, as if it was walking by me. I felt it right in front of my face as it passed by me, and it made a noise, more like a grunt. I could feel it gone. My mind was racing. I had to pep talk myself to opening my eyes, running downstairs because I was literally frozen with fear. I got the courage, ran down to my parents' room, and I just started crying. I had some PTSD after that. I couldn't go to my room almost 4 months. Ended up sleeping in my parents' room, and I could only go up there during the day if someone else was there. I don't think it was a ghost. It seemed more like a demon to me. It just felt evil, especially the noise it made. It didn't feel like it was haunting me. I never experienced it again. I feel like it wanted to make itself known to me for some reason. Anyways, that's my experience. If anyone has experienced something similar. So I was sitting in the bed watching YouTube. Then I heard a loud bang. Everyone went to the kitchen, they think it's the cats. But I don't believe that. Because the exact same thing happened. And then everyone thought it was me. But it was not me. Then it never happened. But the next night I feel really cold. I thought it was because it was winter. This was last year, by the way. And so I get under the covers, and then only feel it to my shoulders. So I cover my entire body except for my head with the blanket. Then the blanket was slipping to the left. And no, my room's not tilted. And I'm freaking out, but I do not yell or anything. I just stare. I didn't know why though. Then it just stopped. I hear a knock at the door. If I answer, and I answered it, nobody's there, then scream. It was my boyfriend. He came out to get his backpack since he had left it when he came by last time. I tell him what happened and then he spent the night. Everything was fine. In the morning, he thought it was an excuse. Then I told him it actually happened. He was shocked. He said he would have never stayed if he knew that. I said, you're mean. He said, I don't do well in haunted houses. If I saw something, I would shit my pants. I said, and if I knew that, I would keep you safe. He said, by putting blankets over me and make a pillow fort. Nothing inappropriate. I said, sure. I've shared my home experiences, but never my work ones. There was this place I worked at for a year that to this day freaks me out. This place had 2 floors and a basement in use. It was a bakery. I often worked on the second and main kitchen floors, alone. I was the only evening baker who worked there, and during the week especially left me alone for about 5 hours with the expectation of the other person who worked at the front counter. The main and second floor kitchens were normal and nice, well lit, and the basement was purely storage, with a door at the stairs and that was closed and locked every night. The basement had a walk-in freezer and fridge and was fairly large with tons of containers, boxes, and old equipment, and even hallway decorations. It was classic unfinished basement, though. Super dark with naked bulbs and the only thing was the light source. Lots and lots of spiders no matter how much we cleaned it, and concrete floor. Basically dark, dank, and creepy. We didn't have to be down there as much, so it didn't really matter. Now the front counter attendants were all in agreement that the place was haunted, and there was something especially creepy about the basement. I quickly enlisted to do the closing of the basement. At the time I had no fear of it, so I would go down there and turn off the lights and close the door at the end of the night. For a while it was an occasion thing of falling for no reason, maybe just a creepy feeling here and there, but nothing that couldn't be explained away. But one night I was down, and as I turned off the light in the door, the basement slammed shut. The basement door slammed shut, leaving me absolute darkness. I was terrified, but realized door jam must have fallen out. Nervously whispered to myself as I walked over to open it up. The second I opened the door, I heard someone running up behind me, so I didn't even look. Just rushed in through the door and slammed it behind me before rushing up the stairs into the front counter grill where I wouldn't be alone. I didn't want to feed into the general fear, so I kept it to myself for a long time until another co-worker said the exact same thing happened to him one day on my day off. I shared my experience, and from then on we worked together and we would close things together, and this unfortunately still left me on my own whenever she was away. On the weekends I also opened, which meant having 2 days off. I would be alone in the bakery from 5 to 7. Part of being the first one is putting coffee. I gladly did. I needed the boost of energy to wake up. As I went to pour myself a cup, one morning I started to see a stack of cups fly over like someone stacked them. Then went all over the floor, one even flying across the counter. It was very early into my shift. I was just tired to ignore it. I quickly cleaned up, made my coffee, got to work, all the while refusing to listen to my music as I normally did. I was glancing around, but worried something else would happen. and it didn't calm down until the next person came in at 7. Now, my final experience came my last week of working there. I was leaving my job for a closer job at home, and everything was going well. There was one day when I went to put a tray somewhere, to put something of it in the freezer, and to get some containers as well. As I walked and looked back in the basement and saw someone step behind the shelf. I knew it wasn't the girl I was working with. She was much shorter than whoever this was, so I called out another coworker's name he had often into the couple of things he had forgot before his shift had ended. And it wouldn't have been the first time I had been startled by him showing up, but it wasn't him. As I walked around the basement, I quickly became apparent that it was empty. I just had acknowledged whatever it was in the place. Something I learned much later could have been bad for me. Needless to say, I was very happy to leave the job, get away from all that. I've worked at quite a few places since then, many which people claim are haunted, but never have I worked somewhere where those claims were proven as thoroughly as this place was. I go for walks around a river trail thing in my hometown. It's a decently long walk, with the main path being flat, but surrounded by steep hills and thick trees and branches and stuff. I was walking with one of my friends this day, and it was a foggy morning. We decided to go off the trail to a house that had been abandoned for years. It's so old it was abandoned when my dad was young, and he's in his late 50s. As we walked towards it, we both noticed the guy standing outside staring at the house. There was a couple rooms you can realistically access, as the stairs had been destroyed. As we approached, he walked into the house. As we followed, almost everyone knows everyone in the town, so we weren't worried about it being a weirdo or something. I walked in first, and no one was there. It was about 15 seconds between when he had walked in and we walked in. We walked into every room, but he was not there at all. We walked out back, both really confused. We hadn't been in there a while because I still get a little creeped out when I'm near there.